Hey, it's future Greg. Um, things have been kind of crazy this last week or so. This episode is a little late, so it's been because the kids have been sick. I'm kind of sick. The wife has been sick, and opposed to making you guys wait to get this uploaded, I'm gonna give it to you as is with minimal cuts, and hopefully you guys enjoy it because the content is still great. Sorry for being late, but I'm a dad in the dad pad, and things happen. So there you go. But without further ado, please enjoy the show. Yo, what's going on, y'all? Welcome to another episode of The Breaks. This is the show where we break down each and every episode of HBO's The Last of Us each week. Very quickly, I do want to let you guys know, of course, that Blerd Lines Media does not reserve any rights to The Last of Us or The Last of Us HBO series. That all lies with Sony, PlayStation, and HBO. So don't strike us. Anyway, you already know who it is. It is your boy Greg from Dad Pad Gaming, putting it down for the Blerd Lines Media team. And with me today, I got my homie, Lelouch V from Then and Now Podcast. What's going on, man?
Nothing much, man. I'm excited to be here, bro. This is my favorite series on TV that we're talking about right now. So I mean, and we got a fantastic episode to talk about. So
Man,
I'm ready to get into it, man.
yeah,
I am ready.
yeah, definitely so. So, just to let you know exactly how this is going to work. Pretty much we'll keep this as a kind of a conversational piece, all in all. But the idea here is because there are some people that have not played the games, we want to respect those people and give them a chance to enjoy the show at the pace it's intended to be.
All
So,
right, no
while
spoilers.
we will speak on spoilers, we will only speak on spoilers up to episode 5,
Mhm.
and anything that has happened in comparison in the game up until episode 5. We can lightly draw some comparisons and foreshadowing for what's to come. However, we don't want to just spill the beans.
Right. All
So
right.
we'll keep it simple. I will provide us with the summary of the episode, more or less kind of a play by play. At any point in time that you find something to be interesting or you want to expand on something, just chime in, yell at me, whatever, raise your hand, however you want to do it. Be as rude or as polite as you want to be. It is all good. It's all love. We were good people here. And we'll draw those comparisons. We'll find those parallels and we'll expand where needed here. All right.
I'm ready for it, man.
Cool beans. So this episode starts off about a week or two before last episode ends. We have Sam and Henry who are hiding out essentially from Kathleen and her grunts. And we kind of find out that the overthrowing of Fedra and the Kansas City quarantine zone was was pretty savage. We got people like just decimating other people, lighting them on fire. People are being hanged. The 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 uprising or the I guess the resistance of Fedra, they're just like cackling it up, laughing, having the best time of their lives while essentially just massacring what looks like hundreds of people. Um, we cut over to Sam and Henry who are ducked off, and we get a glimpse of one of these commandeered Fedra vehicles dragging a dead Fedra agent with multiple knives in him, and they're just dragging him down the street like it's nobody's business. Um,
Mm.
Followed by Sam at the point that actually sees it before Henry like snatches him up like, nah, bro, you keep your eyes on me. Um, but
Now,
we
I mean,
oh go ahead, yeah, yeah,
like yeah, it's pretty much giving the full I am Negan energy. So I respected that.
yeah,
Um, it's just that's pretty much what I would expect to happen to at least one faction during a zombie apocalypse. Like there's gonna be like, all right, rules don't apply anymore.
yeah,
But no, I really enjoy getting to see like the actual backstory behind these people that we were just mindlessly killing it. Well, not mindlessly killing, but killing in the game. Like you got to get a part of the story,
Yeah.
through Henry, but like really seeing like these are people and like they aren't just like ads in a game. It's a beautiful thing to see so far. But I'm
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
definitely, like, I agree with you because, like, the most interesting thing is up until this point, we've not gotten too much violence out of this show. Like,
Mhm.
the biggest amount of violence that we've received up until this episode would probably be
Episode
Joel.
one.
Yeah, Joel like beating down the guy that he sold the drugs to, to
Mm,
exit the quarantine zone. Like, other than that, like, yeah, there's been moments, but all of those moments have been almost through the lens of what Ellie sees.
mhm.
And, of course, like last week's episode with Brian and him begging for his life, we go with Ellie. So we don't see Joel kill that guy. The only person that we've seen Joel kill at this point um are a couple grunts from the Federal Resistance in Kansas City, and which again was off screen, and then the military grunt guy
Right.
from Boston's QZ. Um but nonetheless, we go on a brief adventure with Sam and Henry. They are going up the same flight of stairs that we saw in the last episode where there was a bunch of empty canned goods up there. This reveals that Sam and Henry actually did link up with the doctor that Kathleen killed last week. So definitely shout out to the doctor because
Mm.
like he stayed solid. He
Right.
stayed solid, and like and granted, like he wasn't like a major character where I'm like pondering last week, like, does he know where they are? Does he really
Yeah.
know? Like, I didn't think about it, but this week, just seeing him pop up again, albeit it was for like 5 minutes of this episode. Shout out to the doctor.
Yeah, he really was kind of banking on the fact
Mm-hmm.
that like,
I'll
okay,
sit
yeah,
down,
I
man.
am the doctor. You can't afford to be without me. But like, yeah, like he could have
Yeah,
cried wolf, but he didn't. He said, yeah. Much
yeah.
respect to that, man.
And playing the I'm the doctor game didn't work out for him too well,
Yeah,
which we did
not.
see. Little
No, it
rough.
did not.
That's he definitely checked out. Um, but regardless, we get a really interesting moment where once Sam and Henry get inside of the attic with the doctor, um, the doctor asks, he's like, "Hey, is Sam scared?" And he's like, "Yeah," and he says to him, "Well, he's only scared because you're scared." Um, which kind of, in my opinion, draws those parallels back to Joel and Ellie, because as we see, whenever Ellie is pressed, you can look at Joel, and most of the times that
Mm,
Joel's pressed, that's when Ellie's pressed. So,
mhm.
and like as a parent as well, I do know that a lot of times, like for instance, when COVID broke out, and at those first couple of weeks, no one knew what the hell was going on, and I'm stressed. The kids are like, "Oh my god, we gonna die!" You know what I'm saying? So it was kind of cool that they kind of drew that parallel. But even in rough times, we see that Henry kind of packed ahead of time. He had Sam's like etch and sketch deal so that he could communicate back and forth with him without using sign language. And we also seen that he bought like a huge Ziploc bag of crayons,
Mhm.
um, which is kind of cool because we see that even in the highest stresses, like moments of stress, my guy Henry is thinking about Sam and making sure that he has things to kind of keep him happy and entertained the best he can despite these things. Which of course ties into the, whole theme of love and the things that you do for love that Last of Us is really about. Um do you have any like thoughts or anything that you found
Yeah.
interesting in that scene at all?
But yeah, I mean, well, starting back to like, cause he wasn't deaf in the game, right? Like that's
No.
something that they added for the series. So I mean, adding kind of that new level of dependency, like that's just a further reason why, like, I understood exactly why he felt so close to him.
Right.
Like, just to even in only really knowing them for one episode, like you really did feel like a emotional connection to them in that time span. And
Yeah, man.
that's something that the series has really been doing well. Like you, like when you first saw the daughter, well, Joel's daughter, you felt connected to her. Like they when you get to met more of Tess, like they build up the characters very well in this, and it just makes it like a true tragedy as you see how things progress. Like
Yeah.
it is a beautiful story.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, and like even with Bill and
Frank.
Frank, you know, those
Hmm.
guys, of course, while
Yeah,
in the game,
man.
like, you
Oh
know, had a
man.
completely different story without actually changing the journey of Joel and Ellie,
Hmm.
which again is a thing here. We change fundamentally change some of the things that connect Sam and Henry together, but nonetheless, you know, it doesn't necessarily change the journey. Which is kind of cool because again, they do those things that kind of help you to keep things fresh and to kind of throw
Right.
out those curveballs where people that have watched the show, I mean, have played the game
You play the game.
millions of
Yeah.
times, like, you know, that's refreshing. Um,
No, I really appreciate that. Like, it's not like a exact rendition of what we've already gone through. You get to be surprised along with the new audience spit places too. And man, like seeing man, well, we'll get to it, but the big fight scene at the end of this
oh yeah,
episode, we definitely got to
oh
talk about.
yeah.
We gotta talk.
But yeah, no, I'm with you. Like the fight towards the end, and of course we'll get there, is pretty good stuff. Um, but pretty much we snap back into current, just before current day, where we actually get to see the attempted robbery and mugging of Joel and Ellie as they are like shooting at these guys from the convenience store or laundromat,
Mhm.
whatever it is. And we kind of get that from Henry's point of view. He's seeing these guys like just getting obliterated by old man Joel from across the street. Um, which leads to him kind of low key stalking him, kind of figuring out where he is and popping up on him that night. Um, and pretty much we have another parallel to Joel and Ellie right before Sam and Henry go into the room to essentially stick up Joel and Ellie. We get Sam being taught how to hold his weapon properly. Takes
Mhm.
a quick moment to teach him, and it is kind of an interesting thing because another thing like drawing those parallels when we see that Henry teaches Sam to hold a gun. Henry teaches Sam how to hold the gun, but with one hand, and he's just showing him how to firmly hold it with one hand. Whereas, you know, when Joel taught Ellie how to hold the gun, he had to show her how to hold it with two hands.
Mhm.
But what we see is when Joel wakes up and he sees Sam holding the gun in front of him. Sam is holding the gun with two hands. He's ready to go. And to me, what that picks up is despite the fact that he's younger than Ellie, he's already kind of gotten more battle scars than what Ellie has thus
Mhm.
far. Um, but nonetheless, we get a pretty funny scene. Um, as Joel wakes up and he's kind of realizing what's going on, and he's like, "Yo, I don't want to hurt you guys, but I think we could help each other. So I'm gonna put down this gun, but don't
Mhm.
hurt me because I didn't hurt you." And Joel's just like, "Yeah, everything's fine," and like the coldest, most brutish voice.
Mhm.
and
He's like, "Yeah, I'm still ready to shoot you.
right,
Don't don't get too calm yet, bruh."
right.
Yeah.
Which I love because in this scene, we really get the feeling again that Ellie and Joel are really starting to understand each other because she looks like in the midst of them being in a hold up, she's just like, that's his asshole voice. Like,
Mhm.
that's just the way he sounds. Joel, like, come on, stop being an asshole. And then again, he quotes in a very cold blooded voice, just like, everything's fine. And he's just like, Henry's like, that doesn't make me feel any better. Like, are you cool or not? So kind of a fun little moment
Yeah.
there. Like even in the seriousness of it all, it's kind of cool that they find like little subtle ways to like twinkle in a little bit of humor here and there within the show.
No, I mean, it's been pretty masterful so far. Like the way, because overall, obviously, this is a extremely dark story. So
Yeah.
to find like any light moments of levity is impressive.
Yeah.
And I mean, they've done it every episode where you just like you think like, oh, the world is okay for a second, and then they just remind you like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
This is still The Last of Us. Get used to it.
Yeah, which like harkening back to episode 3, that's what I think made episode 3 so special, is because the world of The Last of Us is so dark, and usually the way that these episodes have been working is it's a whole bunch of dark stuff, and then they kind of twinkle in a little bit of humor from time to time where they can, like the whole like diarrhea is genetic, it runs in your pants
Hmm.
kind of thing, which was hilarious.
That
Yeah,
was a great dad joke. Like
yeah,
that
that
was
was
that
great.
was a top tier dad joke. I'll give
Yeah.
him.
But with that episode 3, the way it worked is everything was sweet, and then we had the moment that we realized that everything was sweet because, of course, we had the Raiders who tried to take over Bill's town, and Bill wasn't going for it. So shout out to Bill, rest in peace.
Mhm.
Um, but anyway, so as
Great
Joel,
episode, by the way. I
yeah,
mean, I know we
wonderful,
covered it, but really good episode.
definitely. So with that, we get back to these guys. So Joel and Henry, they kind of make their peace. They're kind of discussing things. Hey, I need you because we got to get out of this town. It ain't safe here. You know what I'm saying? And by this point, we know this. So we're kind of getting the feel for like the dynamic of both Joel and Henry, which was kind of an interesting one. We have a really cool conversation as they're kind of overlooking Kansas City from like a skyline view. And at this point, Joel's kind of filling Henry out, and he's like, "All right, so who are you?" And Henry replies that I'm a Fedra collaborator. And the first thing he says to him, he's like, "I don't deal with snitches. Like, I'm
Hmm.
good, bro." And of course, Henry actually having the keys to the Jeep, he's like, "Nah, bro, you mess with rats today, fam. Like, I know how to get out of here. You got the muscle for it." Um, but it's at this point that we kind of have that conversation where Henry's like, "Hey, like, I can get out of here, but I don't know how to be a violent person. I can't kill people. Like, the closest I've ever been to being violent is me and Sam holding unloaded guns to you guys. Like that's as close as it's ever been."
Yeah, he was honest snitch 9
Yeah,
instead of the one we got.
yeah, which is kind of interesting. So, of course, like Joel reluctantly is like, "All right, man, like let's get this done. What's the plan?" So that's when we learn that they're gonna go underground. And it was kind of interesting because of the fact that he was a collaborator with Fedra. He knows things that the Resistance and Kathleen don't know.
Hmm.
Which at this point he's like, "Hey, all right, so I knew a guy a couple years back, and he said that the underground tunnel is clean. There is no more. They, at the beginning of everything, they did put the infected underground, but they flushed them out since then, and the main tunnels are clean. Like, we're good to go. We just gotta make it there." Um, of course, Joel's kind of sketchy about it. He's like, "I don't know. This sounds kind of dumb." Yeah, and what's his buddy named Sam chimes in. He's like, nah, it's clean. He's doing all
Hmm.
this sign stuff, and they're like, "All right, so cool." But during this moment, we kind of get some of those moments that we kind of see the bond between Ellie and Sam really starting to kind of form here.
Okay.
They're reading over the pun book together, and they're kind of getting their laugh on and stuff. And it's at this moment we had a quote from the game where it's like, "Oh man, I've not heard him laugh for a very long time." Which in the game it was them trying to catch blueberries in their mouths, and here they're just
Hmm.
reading the pun book. Um, but a bunch of stuff happens. Kathleen's kind of still poking around. We know Kathleen sucks. She's in her childhood bedroom with Perry, which I don't know if you know this, but the actor who plays Perry is actually Tommy in the game. He's the voice actor for Tommy.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So he's out there with that super illustrious beard and the clean slick back. He is the cleanest person in the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, he was swaggy, but
Yeah, he
he
was.
he he didn't go out swag.
Yeah, man.
Oh.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there, man. It was
No, but honestly,
yeah.
like I do really appreciate the fact that they were so like they went and got some of the same talent from the game to put
Yeah.
into this show. Like they really paid a lot of attention to the source material for once, and I don't know that I've ever seen another piece of game live action content do it to this level.
Yeah.
So I
I
mean,
don't think there is. And I think this is important though because right now we know that there is I believe there's a Netflix produced Horizon Zero Dawn show that's coming out
hmm
that's supposed to be set during the downfall of man. There is a Amazon produced God of War show that's on the rise. There is a Ghost of Tsushima movie that's supposed to be in the works, and then there's also a Gran Turismo, which is a weird one to me, but a Gran Turismo movie, which the trailer dropped a couple weeks ago, and it didn't look horrible.
And
Um,
then throwing the fact that I mean, of course, I have to throw this in as a nod to the our show on BLM. But when Sony signed on Destiny, there was a plan to do both series
yeah,
and movies for that as well. So
yeah, exactly. And then with that as well, there's also a Peacock produced Twisted Metal show starring Anthony Mackie in the works as well. So
what?
yeah. That's a thing. You can go Google it. So it's. I think that The Last of Us is so important because it seems like between like Neil Druckmann, who is the co-creator of The Last of Us, working with HBO, and his name always escapes me every week that I do this show, but he's the director and the showrunner for Chernobyl. Like the two of
Mhm.
them together are the showrunners for the show. So you've got one of the lead creators of the actual Last of Us, and you have a critically acclaimed director both working on this together. And it turns out that he is actually a fan of the Last of Us as well, which is making for what has been coming together as a pretty amazing show. But like with that as well, they are really like finding a really good balance between what we should keep from like exposition and like conversation in the gameplay and in cutscenes versus
What to
what
expand upon?
what we can expand on, and then also like what parts of gameplay are just like brainless Joel pushing around a giant
Mm-hmm.
dumpster so we can hop over a fence.
Nah, man, it's really been masterfully done. Like I'm the for whoever sees this, like you may not know, but I'm usually a tough critic on things. This show is almost impossible to critique.
Yeah,
Like they do it so well all the time. It's appalling how well done it is.
yeah.
It is a masterpiece.
It really is. Like it's puzzling that each week thus far they can come out on all cylinders and just kill it. Like I want to say last week's episode was probably one of the worst episodes, and it's still like a 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10. You know,
Like
it's crazy.
yeah.
I don't know how they're doing this, man, but whatever this formula is, and the fact that Sony is kind of along on this ride, you would hope that the formula is established and other people are kind of seeing how it's done, and all of those new spin-offs that are coming out actually get their just due when we start getting the Kratos's adventures and
Mm,
Aloy's adventures
mm.
and everybody else moving on. And then hopefully, we also get some of these other guys that are outside of the Sony's wheelhouse, and they start to kind of do some amazing things as well. Um,
Yeah. If you're listening, Sony, it's okay to just go ahead and scrap that Uncharted movie and then just bring it back as a series with completely different cast.
yeah,
It's okay.
the Uncharted movie wasn't bad. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. It was a fun film to say the least. Like there was fun to be
Tom
had.
Holland was fun, but like getting Mark Wahlberg was just like a really, really very bad casting choice in my
Yeah, it was.
opinion.
I didn't. So I didn't dislike him in the movie, but he was not Sully.
Right,
Like
right.
that's where you draw the line. Like he just was not Sully, and he was supposed to be, and he wasn't, and then he starts calling him kid, and you're like, who's this random kind of funny guy who keeps calling him kid? That is not Sully. That's a middle-aged man. Bring on the grandpa. But yeah, sometimes you're gonna nail it. I guess sometimes you're not. I guess
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
Um,
mean, there's been worse. There's been worse.
yeah, yeah. There's been some pretty rough stuff. We don't got to get into all of it, but we've seen some questionable decisions made in the realm of making video game movies and TV shows and everything in between.
Yeah. That
Um,
original Mario definitely exists still.
yeah, yeah, that's the thing. And the Street Fighter movie, the Mortal Kombat,
Yeah.
the most recent Mortal Kombat movie was really bad.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
superhero there,
bro.
his the main character, his super armor was like his arcana. That's what they were called. His arcana was literally plot armor. Like
Yeah.
it was literally plot armor. Like he did nothing to earn it, and then it just pops up, and it's like, I've got armor now. I can beat Goro because plot armor, and then he beats him. Yeah, it's crazy.
Like, cause he's supposed to be used to getting beat up, so now he can get beat up infinitely. Ha.
Right, plot
We
armor for the
planned
rest of
that.
you. Yeah, we love it. But regardless, we get back onto the course of The Last of Us.
Right.
As they kind of have this discussion, we see again super smooth slick back Perry. He's chilling in the bedroom with Kathleen, and while we kind of had some details before, she kind of gets a bit more into who her brother is. So she's talking about her brother, which I think they said his name was Michael. Neither
Mm,
here nor there. But
mm,
Kathleen's brother, they kind of have a conversation, Perry and Kathleen, about how amazing he was, how great he was, so on and so forth. And we get an interesting conversation here because if memory serves, this is the portion where you know Perry is like telling her like, yo, like, yeah, your brother was an awesome guy, but I am loyal to you. He had his flaws because he was so forgiving,
mm,
but at the same time, your brother did tell you that he knew what was up and you should forgive. You should forgive Henry. He literally told you to forgive Henry. Like he understood and you should forgive him. And at
mm,
this point, we don't necessarily know what's going up from what I remember. But she shares at that point, yeah, I know that he wants me to forgive him. And that's what he said. But I don't care. It didn't get him far. Henry got to go. So of course Perry being a loyal slick back soldier, he's like, all right, well, I guess Henry gotta go. So we cut back, Joel and the gang are kind of sneaking through. We get underground and we get like the some more wonderful callbacks to the game as they kind of get underground finally. We have the rainbow door and we finally get in after Sam gets really excited because he sees all the colors on the wall and such. Joel kind of snatches him up like, nah, bro, we're not going in there. Like, slow down.
yeah. Like I half expected there to be something down there. Like, I mean, I know like in the game there wasn't, but just because they like to throw curveballs, I'm just like, oh, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? But I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sidebar. Sidebar.
No, that's fine. That's what we're here for. Like I said,
Mhm.
be as rude or as polite as you want to be because I am impossible to offend. I live with 4 children. Okay,
Fair.
my son this morning told me that he was tired of me telling him to tie his shoes, so he told me to leave him alone. So I left him alone. You know what I'm saying? My 13-year-old, he's lobbying for his first debit card, but he keeps losing his school ID. And I'm like, why do you need a debit card if you can't keep up with your ID? Like, no, you need to go write me a paragraph. Explain this to me. And he's like, why? I'm like, because you keep losing something that's the same size as the card. Trust me. I live with crazy children, okay? Like there's nothing you can do to offend me. Um but regardless, Joel and the gang, they enter in to this rainbow colored door, and inside we find the underground settlement from the games. And it's it's created pretty consistent to what we would remember it in a nutshell. Like, granted, you know,
Mm,
they don't explore through it, we don't loot through it and go all through all the food cabinets and get the alcohol to make all the Molotov cocktails and all that stuff.
but
um
you get the idea.
yeah, but you get the idea, and there's enough sampled from it that it makes you go, ah. Did you catch the picture of Ish on the wall?
I did not.
Yes. Um so for the audience, because again, I know everybody has not played the game. So in the game, there is a mechanic to the game where you're searching through areas because, you know, it's a video game, so you have to find ammo, you have to find all types of different materials. Part of the stuff that you find are notes that are left behind from people that may have lived in the houses that you're scrounging through, or sometimes you might find old like medals from military men or Firefly members, so on and so forth. But once you get to this particular portion in the game, you run into a series of letters from a character named Ish or Ishmael. And there's don't quote me on it, I think there's about maybe 4 to 8 letters that you find that are all from Ish or are surrounding Ish's story. So
Mm,
we kind of find his story as he kind of washes up on a boat. He finds a family, and him and that family, they collaborate together. They find another couple families that are all safe. They go underground with another person who I think had military experience. I forget what his name was. um, but long story short, the settlement in which Joel and Ellie and Henry and Sam go into is a settlement that Ish and his community built. In the game, there's a picture drawn in crayon of Ish and the other military guy holding guns with little smiley faces waving. Um, and here in the Last of Us show, they actually took that same drawing and had it nailed to the wall inside of the actual underground daycare that they were kind of hanging out and playing in, which I thought was pretty cool.
I did not catch that.
Yeah, definitely go back. Like, did you catch any of the Ish stuff like in any of your playthroughs through the game?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I played through it. I think 3 times total.
Okay.
I think probably on my second playthrough is when I was going through and making sure I got all my like the memorabilia around to like kind of just understand what was going on in that world.
Hmm.
But ish, like yeah, I saw more of his stuff my second playthrough,
Yeah.
but I didn't realize that I never made the realization that was him drawn in there.
Yeah.
I don't know why I've never even noticed that. But okay, I
Yeah.
gotta.
Definitely go check it out.
Hmm,
Shout out to the homie Ish, like wherever he
hmm,
is, because in the game, like you don't figure out all that you know is that there was a door that was left open in the underground settlement. Infected got in, and then we don't get any other updates on where Ish
ish.
is, if he
Hmm.
survived, if they got away. We don't know. So shout out to Ish. We hope he's somewhere off in Tilu land living it up. But anyway, so we get more moments here of Joel and Ellie hanging out, having fun, playing around. They're playing soccer, which is another callback to the video game. They have like the big old goal post painted onto the wall. Um, and I want to say, again, if memory serves me, I have a crazy dad brain, so sometimes things just flip around. Um, but I want to say it's at this point here that Joel looks at Henry and he's like, "Hey, you know, I don't really know what your situation was, and I shouldn't have called you a rat, and I shouldn't have said I wouldn't work with you. My bad, man."
Hmm.
And at this point, Henry is like, "All right, well, I haven't been all the way honest with you. I told you I've never been violent before, but I actually did kill a man. Which at this point, though, we've gotten some of this conversation from Kathleen.
Mhm,
Um, this is our first time that Henry brings up why he's wanted, and it's because at the time that he found out that Sam had leukemia and needed medication to live, he was blackmailed by Fedra. And at that point, he gave up the leaders of the revolution, which was Kathleen's brother.
mhm,
Um, and we have this kind of interesting conversation um that says where he says, I did a bad thing. I'm the bad guy. Um, um, Now this is interesting to me in particular because um now, okay, y'all, this is going to be light spoilers. I'm not going to get into details, but I'm going to get into light spoilers of where this show kind of ends up. But it's
mhm.
kind of mandatory for this conversation. Um, but we get again Henry saying, "I'm the bad guy. I did a bad thing," and it's this is very interesting to me because this show does a very good job of challenging the gamer. Like as the gamer that's played through the game multiple times versus someone who maybe knows of the game and seen some of it or doesn't know the game at all, the experience is different. And to me, this moment really stood out because you have the long running theory that Joel is actually the bad guy. Like is that a theory that you've heard like before?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I honestly kind of believe it because if you look at all of the situations that you run into the game, if you weren't there at the time, those things wouldn't have happened. Like, there's a lot of people that would still be alive if
Yeah.
Joel didn't stumble across their path.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, we know how it ends.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. And yeah, that's what's interesting because we know where things are going here. And to me it's so interesting because I remember listening to one of my few like top video game journalists and content creators, and with some and one of them in particular, I want to say it might have been either Greg Miller of Kind of Funny, or it might have been Colin Moriarty previously of Kind of Funny and IGN, but he does Last Stand Media on YouTube now. Um, but one of the two of those guys, I remember telling a story about how once they kind of finished the game and had their feelings about it, actually reached out to Neil Druckmann and was like, Joel's the bad guy, right? And Neil Druckmann's response to that wasn't yes or no. It was, is he? It never answered the question.
mm,
Um, so like as a gamer, like knowing like how this ends and how things play out, like some of the stuff that they're setting up now, like with the duality of what makes you a bad guy, what makes you a good guy, and everything in between, is super interesting. And when he made that line of "I'm the bad guy because I did a bad thing," as a person, you question that to say, I mean, but is he really a bad guy? Like all of these things that are going on, and he did one thing
it's
for
a matter
someone
of
that he
perspective.
loved. And it's hard to make that call, and I no pun intended, but it further blurs the lines of like what it means to be good or bad in this world where we're all just scrounging by to survive. Um,
No,
yeah,
um, no, that goes into a conversation that I've been having with Charlie for a little while, and just that, like, I mean, the what we believe to be good versus evil isn't as concrete or as set as we've made it like we portrayed it as in media. Like,
yeah,
every good guy has done bad things at a time, and vice versa, and a hero to one person may not be a hero to somebody else. it,
yeah.
it really is all a matter of perspective.
Yeah, I mean, and that echoes throughout this entire episode because to the Revolution, Kathleen is a hero. But
Hmm.
to anyone who was, trying to survive by scratching by and collaborating with who they said was like a really like chaotic quarantine zone, like Kansas City Fedra agents, they would argue that Kathleen is probably worse than those guys were, despite the fact that they
Hmm.
knew they were bad. But again, to the Revolution, she was somebody worth believing in, somebody worth following, someone who had a plan that they could execute. And just it's I don't know, man. It's just crazy, and it makes you question a lot. Um, but regardless, we come back to that conversation with Joel and Henry, and the next line after Henry like calls himself a bad guy, he looks at Joel, and he's like, "Hey, like I know that she's not your daughter." Which is funny after that whole thing where they both say in unison, like, "Oh no, he's not my dad." Like,
Hmm.
no, no, no. Um, but he says, I know that you've lost somebody in the past, and I know that you understand my sacrifice because you are a father and you don't want to go through that pain. I see how you deal with Ellie, more or less. And when he brings that up, of course, old man Joel does what he does best. He deflects. He's like, all right, that's enough soccer. Let's get the hell up out of here. So we skate on forward. We move
Hmm.
along. As we are getting out of the tunnel, this is where stuff starts to get really good. Um, we are confronted by a sniper. Um, in the same neighborhood, like as they kind of do all the stuff, they go around the encampment. They're out of the quarantine zone. They think they're home free. You run into this sniper who has two left hands because he is like he should have been a stormtrooper. He probably
Hmm.
was in his previous life because he can't hit a lick of anything. Like it's bad.
he
Um,
he couldn't even hit people that didn't know he was there.
yeah,
So
it's
that's
crazy,
that's that's saying a lot.
right? So after that first shot, and they kind of realize it, they all duck behind the car, and another cool moment that kind of pays homage to the game because there was a part in the game where when things get real sticky, Henry actually ditches Joel and he runs off and he's pissed about it. But he's like, "Hey man, look, I gotta save my brother. You gotta save her. I got to go."
Mhm.
And he tries to run off from the sniper. The sniper like just misses him, and he's like, "Nope." Turning back around, going with Joel. Um, so we're sitting here for a minute, and Joel's coming up with a plan. He's like, "Yo, you guys stay here, duck low. I'm going to sneak around the back, and I'm going to take this guy out." Which is, how it happens in the game. So we're like, "Oh yeah, 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 yeah. I'm here. I'm here for it. Yeah, R2, shoot him up." So as he, creeps around the back, which is funny because we get that moment where Ellie's like, "No, you're crazy. You're not doing that."
Mhm.
And he's like, "This guy's aim is shit," and it is.
Which it is.
Yeah. What do the ladies like to say? And is. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
It definitely is. It's bad. Um, but from that, he starts to run off, but before doing so, we get a moment that really kind of helps solidify where the Joel and Ellie dynamic is going. Because right before he runs off, she's like, no. And he looks at her and he asks, "Do you trust me?" And in that one moment, it seems like for a split second, they are not worried about that sniper. It's like they are like in that moment, like some type of psychic connection is formed
Mhm.
because she looks at him, he looks at her, and they're like, "All right, yeah, we got this." Um, so of course he's hopping fences, he's army crawling and all this stuff to get up the building.
Joling.
Right? Yeah,
Mhm.
he's joling exactly.
Yeah.
Joel's gonna Joel. So um interesting, he gets up to the top floor into the room where Mr. Sniper is, and we find out that this is somebody's grandpa, like some old hillbilly guy. And you know it's really interesting because obviously in the game, when you come into this room, like by the time you get there, the sniper kind of expects you to be there, so he kind of ambushes
Hmm.
you, and you guys are having this fist fight until you can, take him out. But here, the old man doesn't even notice Joel's there. Joel has the drop on him, and Game Joel would have just shot him in the head. What about his business? Hit him with a
Yeah.
shiv, maybe a mean Cobra clutch or something. But he looks at him. He's like, dude, come on, don't make me do this. Like, just put the gun down. And of course, old Bernard isn't trying to hear it. He turns around and tries to give Joel the work, but we cut out to Ellie, and pow. We hear that gunshot, and for that
Mm.
split moment, Ellie's like, "Oh my god, was that Joel?" Like you could just see it in her face, like she's not sure. Um, but things go sour
Yeah.
because we realize that this guy is not just a sniper; he's working with the resistance from Kansas City. Because we hear Kathleen on the radio. All right, bet we pulling up.
No, I gotta say, like, the way that they let this scene progress, like, just seeing like, oh, one small issue, they can make it out of that, they can get to happiness. Then it just starts to continuously escalate.
Man,
That is some fantastic writing. Like,
yeah.
I'm sorry, but
No, no, you're good,
we'll
dude.
get there.
Like, because I agree with you. Like, what made the next portion of things that we're gonna get into so crazy is because there wasn't much from this, like really the underground scenes. While there was, obviously some dialogue changes, but from that scene on up until the end of this episode, there really wasn't much that was like a big change from the game. In theory, we should have been fine, and we should have known what was coming, and we should have
Mm-hmm.
had no worries. But the entire time, I'm holding my breath. I'm on the edge of my
Like,
seat. Like my nerves are
right.
bad, dude. Like, ah,
It
like
was like, is she gonna leave him under the car? Is she gonna save him? Like,
yeah,
I know she's gonna save him. I know
yeah.
it. Yeah,
So
but
so it's crazy. So as we um as we confirm that Joel has actually killed old grandpa, and Kathleen is on the next hill chirp, saying, "Chirp, where you at?" You
mm,
know, we realize that she's getting ready to pull up, and we hear ever so faintly Joel screaming from across the neighborhood to run. And they're like, "Huh?" Like, what? Of course, Sam, he can't actually hear, so he's not much help in this situation. So,
that's not funny.
right.
That's not funny.
Yeah, I mean, but I mean, it's the truth. Like, he's not much, like, he doesn't hear somebody yelling. He doesn't know if you're yelling at him in front of him unless he's looking at you. But, regardless, Henry's like, huh? What? Next thing you know, they pull up with this big ass Jeep that says run on the front of it. And there's a whole caravan of military vehicles and a huge plow truck. And it's Kathleen and the Goon Squad. Um, so from this, they start to run, and they duck behind a car that's fairly close to the house that Joel has a sniper rifle in. And at this point, they're hiding. Kathleen is walking around with Rico Chapo. You know what I'm saying? He out here, he real smooth. He got the chopper on hand. He looking good. He looking like Man Bay out. Here with the slick back. Um, and at this point, she's like, "All right, come on out. Like, let's not make this what it doesn't have to be, because we can do this the easy way or we can do this the hard way. But I'm gonna get
Choice
you."
is yours.
Right. Right. So he made the choice, because the choice was his, as you've alluded to. And he pops his head out and he's like, "Hey, look, man, just let the kids go." And this is where we see exactly how twisted Kathleen is.
Hmm.
Because she's like, I mean, no, I'm not gonna let him go. He's gonna die, and the girl's gonna die too because she she's with the guy who killed Brian last episode. Or Brian. Brian had
Mhm.
Brian should have went home when he seen them pulling up. He should have realized who Joel was and just kind of like been like, nah, bro, I'm good.
I'm just like first dead bodies drop. Like you know what? It's not that serious. We gonna go back and regroup. We gonna
Yeah, he
figure it
should have.
out. That's
Yeah, because he played that card, but he played that card after he got shot in the tailbone. Like you should have been said, "My name is Brian. I don't want no smoke," but you brought the smoke and then said you didn't want it. You know what I'm
mm,
saying? Like Brian, I hate to say it, bro, but you got what you got. What you got. You know what I'm saying? That's what they tell the kids. You know, my kids at school. You get what you get. You don't throw a fit. You know, like it
yeah.
is what it is. Sorry, Brian. But anyway, like she's like telling him like nah, bruh, you gotta go. They gotta go because y'all all the ops at this point, and we don't care. And she's like, you know, it's just is what it is. Sorry about you. And
Yeah,
Henry's like,
like
I
your life
mean,
is not more special than anyone else's life. Why do the our people get to die when yours live? No,
yeah.
fuck that.
And it
Oh,
was
sorry.
crazy. No, you're good. You're good.
Mm.
So it's crazy because like he looks at her and he's like, they're just kids. Like, come on. And she says like the coldest shit. She's just like, I mean, kids die too. Like, so? And then like you said, she draws that parallel of like my brother died. Like, is your brother more important than my brother? Which the irony of it is she's drawing that comparison all the while. She's indicating that her brother is in fact more important than half
Mhm.
of her own military force, more important than the sinkhole that we saw in the last episode that she just ignored because getting Henry was more important. And we see exactly how unhinged she is. So, you know, Joel, he has a clean shot, but at the same time, Joel knows that if he takes that shot, you know, Joel, I
They
mean
all die
Ellie and the
anyway.
rest of them aren't going to make it. So he's very patient, and right right as Kathleen looks at Henry and says it ends how it ends. A sinkhole opens up right behind everybody. An entire truck falls into it, and a armada of clickers. Oh my god.
Oh my man.
Oh my god. Like,
And knowing that it was pretty much all practical, like just masterfully done. The scene, man. Like
yeah.
I've seen bad zombies, and that that was like the exact opposite of that. Like it was perfect.
Yeah.
And, and
I mean perfect is it. Like, and man, like I mean cuz you hit it on the head. It was 97% practical. Like they said that they went in, they got a bunch of stuntmans and athletes. They went and got the team that was behind like the how can I say, the stunt directors that were behind the Planet of the Apes
mhm.
reboot series to go and take these people away to Clicker Camp. Clicker Camp to
Just
teach these.
shows how much dedication they was
Yes.
putting into this show. Like, bring this energy to everything. Like,
Yes.
why would you bring less? Like, like
Oh,
seeing how good this is makes me so much more angry at previous content. Cause like,
yeah.
if you had the money to do this all the time, why didn't you do this all the time? Just do this.
I don't know, man. You asking the same questions that I'm asking because again, they've got the formula, they've got the patience, they're delivering, and they are hitting home run after home run. And this is the fifth one now. This is the fifth home run. Fifth episode straight, fifth week straight, fifth home run. Like they are killing it. And in fact, they actually show that out of all of the clickers that you actually see, there's only I think in the like the post notes of the show that they do at the end of each episode, they showed that there were only like 3 or 4 of them that were actually in frame close up to see that were CGI. And that was
Mm,
like the first couple that like came out, and they actually showed them like in their green suits,
mhm,
and as they're like crawling out, and obviously added to be clickers in post production. But then you get a which made sense because like the first couple that came out ended up being trampled by an army of them.
mhm.
Um, and again, most of these people are people in like uniforms and costumes, and it was amazing.
Oh man, like I was like, am I watching a cutscene or is this really happening live action? Like, 'cause I mean, I'm always been a super big fan of zombie content. Like, it's been my niche ever since playing through Resident Evil 4 back on the GameCube. Like, I have a huge love respect for all good and bad zombie content, and just seeing them make it to this level. Like, I already called this game the greatest zombie game of all time, and just seeing it translate so well over to this live action format it's just been a dream for me. Like,
Yeah, man. I agree. You ever see that episode of a Proud Family with Sugar Mama, and she's like, I put my foot in it. Like
mhm.
HBO is
Yeah,
absolutely,
I really
and they
put
not
my
and they not even putting their own foot in it. This is absolutely Sugar Mama's foot they putting in it, man, because
bruh,
they going
like
crazy. But
you
like it's crazy. It's hard to put into words sometimes some of the things that are coming out of these episodes, because again, even in the game, like this particular portion happens during the day. But the parallel that this draws to the game is, in the game, this is probably the portion of the game when you see the most clickers. And here in the show, it is the part of the show that we see the most clickers. Um, but along with those clickers, we get our first bloater. That
oh my. I
yeah,
mean, I already hated fighting them in game. It just makes it so like I would never, ever, ever, ever want to see that in real life. Never.
yeah, it was bad. Because of course our boy Ricky Suavo Chapo, you know what I'm saying? He come out with the slick back. He wants to be a hero, and he's like, "Yo, Kathleen, I got this. You get to safety. I got him." And
He
he
said,
he pulled,
nah, he knew what it was. He said,
yeah,
"Run and don't look back, because
man,
it's not
yeah.
gonna be pretty."
And boy, he gave him the cleanest lineup. Like it was, it was bad.
Yeah,
Like
he
he
he snatched his muffin cap back
cleaned
blue.
off. Like he just fatality. It, like at that
Yo,
moment, like collective, because we've been watching the show with our big kids, and it was between the 4 of us. Like my daughter was like off playing her tablet on the phone. I want to say my youngest son was asleep though. But between the 4 of us that were watching the show, there was like a collective ooh, just as he just so effortlessly like pounds through the crowd. He's eating these shots, they don't bother him, and then he just grabs him. In the same second he grabs him, just rips his head off.
like all one clean, like he didn't get a chance to fight it off. It was
it
done.
was it was crazy. Like he just peeled his top off. It was like the cheese head commercials back in the day. They just peeled. It was like it was supposed to come off. Like, nah, this toy is made this way. It's all right, Dad.
Oh
But
man. Don't worry, it'll snap right back on.
it won't. Rest in peace to Perry, aka Slickback, aka video game Tommy. Like
Yeah.
it was rough. Um, but regardless, we see Joel, who's like he's picking off all types of clickers to make sure Ellie is good and safe. But when he sees this bloater, he's never seen one before, from what we know. He's taken aback for a second, so
Mhm.
much that Ellie is left to kind of fend for herself for a little bit, and she ends up getting into a car to like hide away from some of the chaos. And the baby clicker enters the scene.
Yo, like
Was
that. Oh my god.
yeah,
Like, could you imagine they just crawling and flipping around?
yeah,
No,
man.
bro. No.
Like shout out. I know they said they went and got like she was a very young and celebrated gymnast to play the role,
Mm.
but ugh. Like she gets in, she's like kind of like crawling backwards to get inside, and all these unnatural, gross, twisty moments. Oh my, it was pretty gross. Um but of course Ellie does manage to get out of the car and get away from the clicker baby. Which is dope because you never really make that connection in a lot of these forms of media. Like I want to say, what was that one? Dawn of the Dead, um, had the zombie
The
baby
baby
that
in the
was born,
stroller. Mhm.
and that was pretty crazy. Um, and you figure like for that in any type of like zombie, or of course in this case they're technically not zombies, but they still kind of are.
Mm.
Um,
They're zombies.
yeah, some people on the internet might kill us for it, but they are a niche genre of zombie. They
Mm.
kind of fall into the same category. Um, but you don't think that after the Dawn of the Dead scene that you would get something as impactful as another form of a child zombie, but this
Mm.
this kid kills it. She's gross looking. She's moving. Like we see her, we all get the heebie-jeebies. And
Like, yeah, the movements are so like I don't know how to explain it, but like if I saw that in real life, I'm just like, oh, it's
uh,
like I don't want to touch it. Like, get it back,
just
run. Like,
now, just eat me, because I'm gonna have a heart attack and I'm gonna just lay there on the floor. I'm done. I'm checking out. No thanks.
yeah, no.
But as Ellie does finally get out the car, she gets away from this thing. At this point, Joel's kind of like snapped back into reality. He's all right. We gotta clear a path. Um, we kind of reestablished the psychic link that they established at the portion of "Do you trust me?" And Joel clears a path for her to actually make it over to Sam and Henry, help them to get from under the car. We get some good old Ellie gameplay of her shanking these guys in the neck to kill the clickers. They all get away. The bloater is still well and alive, and the army of clickers actually starts to run towards the actual QZ zone that was originally taken over by the resistance group. Um, we cut to the next day, or we cut to later on that night. They found some shelter. Um, we've got Joel and Henry. They're kind of chilling. Nothing really going on of consequence here. They're just kind of licking their wounds from the night. Everybody's catching their breath. Um, but where things matter, we come back to Joel and Sam, who are in the back room. They're hanging out. They're chopping it up. They're reading some of the comic books, the Endure and Survive, Captain Stargator. What I forget what it's called, but the comic.
Hmm.
Um, and Sam, he's kind of checked out. Like he's there, but he's not really there, and we don't know why. I mean, we know why, but we don't know why. Um, so Sam asks her the question of, "Do you think that the infected? Do you think they're really still themselves on the inside? Like, what do you think happens?" And eventually reveals the bite on his leg.
Mm-hmm.
So we deviate from the original story, and we get Ellie, who cuts her hand to drop her blood into his wound. You know, this particular portion, again, something that messes with the gamer. Like, of course, for the people that haven't seen this, I'm sure it inspires hope in them as well. But this is one of those moments that, of course, we spend this entire episode getting attached to Sam and Henry. And I would argue that you get more attached to them here than you do in the game in some ways.
I would agree.
And they create what I call the Titanic effect. And what I mean by the Titanic effect, it doesn't matter how much times you've seen Titanic. Yes, it's a great film. It's a beautiful love tale. But every time you watch that movie and you get immersed in it, you know what the ending to that movie is. But for some reason, the characters in that film are so endearing that you always think like maybe it's different this time. Maybe there's a deleted scene. Maybe Jack and Rose both survive, and that's not a thing. But we get that here. We like at least I did. Like, did you feel the same? Like seeing her
No,
drip
I
in?
was like, oh, okay. So maybe this time around he survives and we get like them to tag along for a little bit. It's
Right.
like there's a chance.
Yeah.
There's a chance we get more Henry because they wouldn't build up this character just to let him go this soon. They wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you. And by the way, both I know Henry's actor, his name was Lamar, and then I missed the little boy's name. Both extraordinarily like well versed actors. Like to be deaf on one hand, and for Lamar as Henry to like really come with it, like they really, really, really killed it. So definitely shout out to them. Um,
Hope
but
to
of
see him in more content.
yeah, I would love to see both of them in more things. Um, but of course, we come to Sam asking, like, "Hey, can you stay up with me tonight?" Obviously, he's scared. Ellie says yes. They pretty much stay up until she falls asleep. Um, when she wakes up, which what I find to be interesting, um, there's a brief foreshadowing. Because if you remember back in episode 2, um, when Tess dies, they show all of those infected that are on the ground, like outside of the Capitol building, and they're all on the ground, but they're all turning to face the sun.
Mm.
Yeah. So as we wake up and we see Sam on the bed, he too is on the bed. He's silent. He's not saying anything. He's turned towards the sun. And, we see him sitting upright. We know that he's taken some of Ellie's blood, and we're like, all right, maybe we're good here. And as soon as we have that moment of maybe we're good here, Sam starts salmon, because this is what Sam is supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
We as the gamers, we knew it was gonna happen. They struggle. They make their way into the common area, living room area, however you want to say it. And Joel, of course, reacts. He's ready to take Sam out. Henry stops him. And of course, after almost shooting Joel, he instinctively shoots Sam. And man, you talk about like when Sarah
Right.
dies, you can say that Pedro Pascal and Troy Baker of the game both delivered heart-wrenching performances to deliver those scenes, and they are both very unique in their own ways, and they both hit. I'll say in the game, I think it was the abruptness of it all that made it so heavy because, you know, after Sam dies, Henry almost instantly pulls the trigger on himself and,
Hmm.
you know, offs himself, and that's it. But here we spend a solid 30 seconds with Henry. Ah,
You just see his brain just break down exactly how, like, what did what did I do? Like, man, I was like, no, don't do it. Yeah,
man,
yeah.
yeah. It was heartbreaking, man. Like, even more so, like I said, like Sarah dying in both really hit me the same way. Um, but here, the performance that was displayed, and like you said, him saying, "What did I do?" He he's in disbelief. He's like he's escaped all logic at this point, and at one point, like calls for Sam as if he's going to get up, and you can see in those like 30 seconds of him as an actor displaying all these emotions and confusion he's working through in this brief moment. And, you know, of course, he takes his own life. Um, Heavy stuff, man.
Yeah, man. Well, first, that moment should have got. It's like just immediately put him in the nominations for the Emmys for this year, and like give it to him.
Yeah,
Like
they need a
he'll,
couple Emmys. They need a couple, like not just one. They need a couple.
yeah,
Like, goodness gracious. Um,
like just consistently, just being able to create that level of tension in a moment that we know is coming.
and we know
It
exactly how it's playing out.
like there was never a point in time I'm just like going. It's like, oh yeah, okay, they're gonna do that part. They're gonna. It was like, oh no 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 no. Like I'm just like, don't get me there. I don't want to see that yet. Like stay away. Like
Yeah,
being able to create that much emotion in something that I know is happening is impressive,
yeah,
and
man.
being able to go through it with my girlfriend that has never played the game. Well, she played a little bit, but she didn't get that far enough in the
Hmm.
game to see this. Like getting her first impression combined with my own impression has really made getting through this series just like a fantastic experience. Like I am a person I love nitpicking at things. I love picking things apart to the highest degree. Like my favorite anime of all time, the one that my stage name is made off of, I give that an 8. Like that is an 8 out of 10.
And that's fair.
This this is fantastic. This is a masterpiece within itself, and it just gets deeper and deeper in every episode. Like
Yeah, they they're
kudos.
they're definitely, like I said, putting Sugar Mama's foot all in there. It's wild what they're
Yeah.
achieving narratively, like set piece wise, like on every cylinder, like from the sets, the cinematography, the direction, the actors and their performances. It's hard to really get into anything in the show that has a problem.
Mm.
Like, and I mean, of course, I'm sure as season one is over and we kind of all go through that depressing time of what do we watch on
Yeah.
Sundays now, we'll probably go back and watch it, and maybe then we'll find some stuff that maybe doesn't line up perfectly or whatever else. But like first run through, masterclass in television. There's not been anything this good in a while, and the last thing that was this good was HBO. like
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
how do you turn around and say, all right, the House of the Dragons is over. Now come watch this. But it's okay because Euphoria, which is another show that has some of the best
Mm, mm.
performances
Oh
in
man.
modern
Mm.
acting, is also coming up next. So it's crazy. Um but of course, as we kind of wrap up our scene with Henry and Sam, We cut to Joel and Ellie as Joel finishes the burial site for them. We get Henry, who is buried, of course, next to his brother. Ellie comes out with Sam's notepad. She writes on it, "I'm sorry," and leaves it right there. She ties it in a way to where it will be extremely difficult for someone to go and erase the message on there. Ties up the little pen and leaves it. And you can, and what's really cool about this scene is like it's a very short scene, and not much happens, but you can tell from the way that they communicate and they navigate around each other in this very brief scene that they are kind of dealing with this the best they can, and also trying to respect each other to kind of let each other deal with this and grieve and maneuver through this in the way that they best can. But Ellie's quick to say, "Hey, which way is west?" And she starts walking, and of course, thereafter, Joel is right behind her, and the episode wraps. So, this is the point here. Of course, we've kind of talked about what's kind of caught our eye. We've talked about how well the show has been doing on the week. This is the portion of the episode where we refer over to the official Blerd Lines Media rating scale to give this episode a grade. So the way that this works is there are 10 scores. All of them are scored as numbers, and there is a phrase or word with each one of these numbers to explain where they coincide on the scale. Now there's 10, which is a masterpiece. Be in mind, a masterpiece can have its flaws. It does not have to be perfect, but should be obviously a standing achievement and what a medium of entertainment can achieve. There's 9, which is amazing. 8, which is great. 7, good. 6, okay. 5, mid. 4, mediocre. 3, turtleneck. 2, terrible. And 1, Superman 64 bad.
Ooh.
Now, I always like to explain turtleneck at 3 because people always say turtleneck, please explain. And your face definitely said turtleneck. So the idea behind turtleneck is this. No one really ever likes turtlenecks. Every now and then, someone wears a turtleneck and you're like, all right, you did that. So for some reason, because that one guy likes turtlenecks, they are still a thing and they're still in business. So turtleneck is to say, hey, this is pretty bad, but on occasion, we'll find someone that can actually enjoy this. Versus 2 really minimizes that at terrible. And then 1, Superman 64 is, of course, so bad that no one on the planet should enjoy it. So with that being stated, where would you put episode 5, Endure and Survive, on the Blerd Lines Media official rating scale?
On the BLM official rating scale, I'm gonna give this a 10, man, because it gave me everything I wanted. It gave me a villain that is compelling. It gave me characters that are relatable and they feel real, and you understand the emotions that they encountered during their episode. You gave me action that felt really impactful and meaningful, and not just like just random explosions. Shout out to Michael Bay. And then you
Does
gave
like
me
explosions.
and then you gave me a ending that really like put a statement piece on the episode. Like, man, like it's a 10. It's a 10 for me.
Yeah, definitely. And I agree. This is the second episode that I have to give a 10 to, man. It's wild. Episode 3 I also gave a 10 for different reasons. But this mirrors episode 3 and almost being its polar opposite. Like I said, episode 3 showed the beauty of how this world can work and how people can love and be happy in it, and flip things upside down to give us a moment where they had to kind of fight off a potential raid.
Mm.
Where this episode took everything and showed us exactly how ugly it could be, but also gave us some glimmers of what the sprouting bonds and feelings between Sam and Ellie felt like. Um, you know, the choreography scenes of the bloater, the the practical effects of the clickers coming out from under the sinkhole. This is a great episode, man. This was a masterpiece of an episode, and again, anyone who works in TV production should absolutely be envious about this.
Oh my god. I mean,
I'm gonna you take my daughter to the bathroom real quick. I'll be right back.
yeah.
At this point in the episode, where I like to kind of wrap things up is briefly addressing the next week on the Last of Us preview. Which this particular week we got to see that jumping forward a little bit, which makes sense because after this portion there's a lot of like gameplay where you're just like puzzling and such.
Mhm.
But we're getting to Wyoming and we are running into Tommy. So what I usually like to ask at this point is based on what we've seen, where we've been, and where the show is headed, how loyal do you think the next episode is going to be to what you would expect it to be?
I'm honestly expecting it to deviate a little bit just because they made an effort to throw in something to kind of spice up the
Right.
story from what we expected, and knowing a little bit of what's coming. Yeah, I got there's a lot of ways to kind of twist and
Yeah.
turn that. So I'm excited to see exactly what they do with it, but I feel like they're going to do something a little bit different.
Yeah, I agree. As stated many a times, they're doing a really good job of knowing what to keep, what to scrap, what to change, and everything in between. Um, I think that this episode, while every episode to a certain degree has been loyal to the game, of course, episode 3 being the most radical example of them kind of breaking away from what we would
Mm,
expect to do something different.
mm,
I think this is probably going to be another episode that we see as one of those episodes that maybe changes a bit more comparing to episode 3. Um Simply because like up until this point we haven't really known Joel to be the same hyper violent guy that he has been in the game.
mhm,
Despite the fact that he has alluded to the fact that he's killed some innocent people. Um we've not really seen him go hog wild. Like he's doing what he has to get by, and I think that this next episode we might explore a bit more of how sinister old Pappy Joel can really get.
right.
But of course we'll
And
have to see.
yeah, I mean, I think you're right just because the trailer does allude to that a bit. Like you see exactly how enraged Tony gets towards Joel for certain things that they've done. So I'm thinking you're probably right there in that we're gonna see exactly how dark Joel can be.
Yeah. But if we do, I think that'll be interesting, especially because, like I said, they've been up until this point they've been shying away from exactly how violent this world is, only alluding to it. But clearly, this past week was no holds barred with the uprising against Fedra at the beginning of the episode. I mean, this is the first time we've even seen, like, other than the opening episode, this is the first time that we've actually seen clickers eating people.
Hmm.
So yeah, I would imagine that we'll probably get a lot more uh moments here that are going to kind of show exactly how morally bankrupt Joel could possibly be. Um but again, we'll have to wait until this Sunday in order to see what that plays out like. So of course we could go on and on about how great this show is and how interesting it is and break down everything down to the nuclear level, but we will be here until the sun comes up. And
Mm,
I don't know about you, but I live with a beautiful woman, so I
same.
want beautiful woman time, you know?
Yeah,
Um
same.
so yeah, shout out to the beautiful women, especially our beautiful women. How about that? Okay.
Yeah,
Go get your own.
absolutely.
Um but with that, man, Lelouch V, where can people find you if they want more of what you have to offer, and what is it that you do offer?
If you're looking for more podcast content, you can follow me at Instagram at lelouch.v. Um, you can also find me in the Blerd Approved Entertainment Facebook group. We have a lot of fun there talking about stuff like what we just talked about in this podcast and many more things around the Blerd space. So come chat with us in there. And yeah, that's it for me for today.
Yeah. Again, guys, I want to thank everybody for pulling up and checking out another episode of The Breaks. Of course, you can stay tuned next week as we break down episode 6 of The Last of Us, as Tommy and Ellie and Black Maria this time around, interesting
Hmm.
enough, um, kind of mix up into more adventures of the world of Tilu. But of course, I want to thank you guys for stopping by, checking us out, and remember, all rights are reserved to Sony, PlayStation Entertainment Company, as well as HBO. We do not own the rights to any clips that will be inserted into this podcast for visual aids. Thanks again, guys, and have a wonderful day.
And I hope y'all have the same energy for season 2.
Let's hope.